Quiet on the set. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Welcome to Mondays with Myrt, where we talk about anything and everything that's come across our Genia desk in the last week since last we met. We have a great lineup of topics for you today, and we're going to be playing Cousin Russ's invention, the game known as uh, who do you think you are? I was going to say, who's in my line? That's the name of the game. Big shout out if it just so happens that my brother Dave is in the audience. He's in Salt Lake, and how I wish I still had my Salt Lake house so I could be there. He's touring, driving one of 10 semi trucks. 10 semi trucks to move a guy named Kane Brown, who's a musician, from one venue to the next. What do you know? Amazing what people do. Let's see, we've got Frank on the panel, but let me show you their our panelists' blog posts or blogs. This is Ellen's Hound on the Hunt. Let me share my screen better. And this is Ursula's My German Family. And I need to be sending these links out to y'all, so let me do that. There's My German Family. Here is here's Hound on the Hunt, Ellen's. And this is, there we go. Let me pull this up. This is Jill's. She helps people understand from her own experience what it's like to become a certified genealogist from the Board for Certification. This is Hillary's, one of Hillary's several blogs. This is Frank's. Oh, you're working with AI. Boy, am I getting a headache from doing that, but I'm learning a lot. And of course, we've got Randy's Genia Musings. And we're going to talk with Randy first. What I tried to do in sharing these various blog homepages is to have you become familiar. Oh, this is not your blog, it's your YouTube channel. Okay. But that's perfectly fine. I was just wondering why we're getting all this sidebar stuff, and now I get it. Not a problem. Because that's a video blog. But I do this so that you can become familiar with the layout, and the brand recognition is very important to me, that we share what it is our panelists are doing. Now, let's bring up Randy Seaver, who had a very interesting week. And you had to be kind of quiet and pull Hillary up as well. And something happened to you, Randy. Talk to us a little bit about that, and then we'll go looking. There you go.
Yeah, well, I was asked to be a guest star for the 2024 WikiTree Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fifth one. You did one when? 2 years ago?
Yes, yes, and they made the breakthrough for me. And I have so many new ancestors, but they found out who Dolly Yaki's parents were.
Yeah.
Let me share your screen and bring it up. Let's do that here. Don't worry, we're right there. So Hillary, what is the WikiTree challenge? And then we'll get back to Randy, and he has a little show to tell us what he's learned.
The WikiTree challenge, they choose one person. They did do sort of a lot of people that were known in the genealogy
vertical world, whatever it is.
But now they're working on people that are members of WikiTree. Some of them that are contributed quite a lot to WikiTree. And Randy is one of the first that we've done this year. We've got another one starting this weekend, I think, this Thursday. But last week, up until Thursday last week, we were working on Randy's.
Okay.
I was working on it. So what we just do is, I mean, a lot of what Randy added was things added from a GenCom. and
Yeah,
things
let's
have moved on since then. So
let's let him tell the story of what he learned. We just needed to know wikitree.com. Is it a .org or a .com, Hillary?
I think it's doc. Let's have a
I
look.
don't
.com.
know. I go to it. It's a .com. Okay.
It's a .com.
And well, if you just look for it, it's one huge tree. And Randy was spotlighted. Randy, why don't you tell us what the heck was going on during the May 2 through 9 of this year?
Well, I put together a little talk here, and I thought it would be a good idea to just show what WikiTree looks like when you first get in. So I'm logged into WikiTree, and this is my navigation homepage. So it shows a tree on the side, and then there's a number of menus up at the top. There's my WikiTree, and there's I'm Seaver 15 in WikiTree. I was the 15th Seaver that they put in.
Yep.
When I added all my data a long time ago. And so there's a bunch of links here to do things. Family tree is important. Tree apps is important. And you just need to know that those are there. So I can click on anybody here. I can search for someone up here in the name area and go to their profile. Okay.
Yep.
Now, also on WikiTree, there's the My WikiTree, and that has more links in that tab up at the top. And here, connections is important, and this is where all the connections that they've made for me with me can be shown. So those are the two important menus. There's also an add menu. So if you want to add a new person, you would click add and then add a person, and find and help. And help is important, and help is pretty good. So this challenge is a contest by WikiTreeers, and these are the experts like Hillary who know how to add things and get the most out of everything that's going on. And so the contest is to add the most connections to the guest star's WikiTree up to 7 degrees. So 1 degree is a parent, 1 degree could be a spouse, 2 degrees is a grandparent, and 2 degrees could be a spouse's parents, etc. So the goal here is to add connections and to add close connections to me. It doesn't do a whole lot of good to add people 12 generations back at this point in time, but to add close connections so that when someone who isn't in WikiTree comes in, they may find their parents or their grandparents, and consequently, be encouraged to add content. The contest also is to try to solve brick walls, which get bonus points, and to improve profiles. I don't think they get points for improving profiles, but they get, some credit. So that's the challenge. And so this started, so these WikiTreeers do this for a week. And so in the beginning, back in 2011, when WikiTree started, I added about 7,000 profiles using a GEDCOM file. It was mainly my ancestral families. Okay. So parents and children and wives and spouses of children, etc. And then I haven't done too much over 13 years here.
I hear you.
Yeah.
You're a prolific blogger, that's for darn sure. But you weren't on WikiTree that much.
Yeah. I was kind of befuddled by how to do biographies and sources and things like that. And so I avoided it, It's gotten easier, and they have tools now to do some of those things. And maybe Hillary at some point in time can explain how all this happens easily, but not right now.
Not today. Yeah, we got to. Yes.
So because of what I had added before, I had 1,142 connections before the challenge started. Today I have 2,460.
Oh my gosh.
So that's not unusual. So they added 1,325 basically. It helped tremendously that I added my wife in the middle of it, so that people could add her line and her relatives as connections to me, because she's a connection also, and her parents are. So
Okay, let me just take a little minute, bring up this one comment.
Okay.
So Gwen wants to know about uploading GEDCOMs and how to make it show up for others, that so that others can connect with it over on WikiTree. She felt that it was a little bit confusing. She uploaded it but couldn't see it. So I am going to put on my list of things to do exactly that. And that, because we want you to succeed at WikiTree. So Gwen, this is going to be her second. She's the one that brings things to my attention. And could we please do this in the future? Apparently, you're an unofficial panelist. You may have to join us sometime. But back to Randy now. Don't worry, Gwen. We won't leave you in the lurch.
Let me just answer Gwen's question briefly.
Yeah.
If you add a GEDCOM file, if you have a GEDCOM file that you want to add profiles to WikiTree with, before they are added, you have to check that WikiTree doesn't have that particular person in the WikiTree.
Yeah, it's a matching thing.
So there's a matching thing. And so consequently, I tried to upload 1,000 back when I had my heart problem and had lots of time and was bored. And it was really hard. You don't want to add a whole bunch. You might want to add a family at a time or a couple generations at a time, but you don't want to do 1,000 or even 500 at a time, because it takes time. They give you 3 months to do the matching, and I failed. So about half of mine went up.
Things were different in the beginning when WikiTree was just forming. They wanted as much data, because I uploaded about the same amount that Randy did, and that because they had to start with something. And in those days, nobody had Conrad Weiser and Dolly Yockey. So yeah, okay, back to your slideshow. Okay. So we're ready.
So here's just the connection count. That there's a link here to in connections, and so the current one is 2467. It tells me that I'm 19 degrees from Queen Elizabeth II and 16 degrees from Kevin Bacon. And on 30 April, I was at 1142. So
a lot happened.
So as a result of the study here, for each degree, okay, so 7 degrees takes you back to 5th grade grandparents.
Yeah, quite a ways.
But only children of 4th grade grandparents, and that type of thing. So for each degree, this is how many people were added, how many people are in my connections. Not they added a number. So this was only 2458. I can see a list of all the degrees if I care to. And those are all links to WikiTree profiles further down the chart here. I'm not going to go into it. There is something called, you can see during the challenge and afterwards, you can see who added and what they added and how many during the profile, during the challenge. So I'm going to go down the screen here, and here are all the connections that were added during the challenge, and given names, last names, current name, birth date, birthplace, death, etc., manager, and when it was created and when it was modified. So anything in blue you can link to, and so this is how I figured out what people added, and I'm going to change my my Roots magic. And then this is in the middle of the challenge. This is our statistics. Chris O'Connell was in first place. They didn't have bonus points added here yet.
So those are the people that worked on your tree, and
being 35 of them, and yeah. So these are the people that worked on the tree. So there's 3 YouTube videos at this point for a kickoff, weekend, and wrap up. the reveal is this coming Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. So
Awesome.
I
I'll
think
tell
that's why. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, when you're through presenting, if you want to give me those links in the with the label that it's a kickoff or weekend or wrap up,
Yeah.
send it to me in the private chat. I'll send them over to the YouTube side.
Okay.
And I'm very excited because another panelist, Ellen, is going to be featured. So, I mean, who doesn't want to have 35 people working on their on their tree
Yeah.
and make connections? Yes.
Yeah. So I can put those in the chat also if you want me to when I get off this.
Yes, right there in the private chat, and I'll send them right up. Okay.
Fine.
Congratulations. What's your biggest breakthrough? Oh my gosh.
I'm
Yes.
not done. I'm not done.
Oh,
Well,
okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry. So one of the interesting things I hadn't seen before is this a 6-degree chart. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
These are all the connections I have, and it's too big to put on one slide here.
Yeah.
These are all the connections. Each color is a different degree. So
Mm-hmm.
blue is the 6 degrees, 7 degrees, and I'm in the middle. And the ancestors are gray, but they don't show all the ancestors right now. So I kind of wondered what this was called. I haven't heard yet what it's called, but I think it's a meatball chart.
Okay.
That's what I'm calling it, and maybe it'll catch on. I don't know. But there's options here. So this is without names on it and just my picture, but you can get a meatball chart with every name on it. There's a link.
Oh my. Oh,
You see the red display at the top.
go back or forward to we
You click
saw
all,
the
if you
zoomed
click on
in for
all here, if you click
yeah.
on all here, you get all the names.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you were able to draw a line to your ancestors on this, it would be a spaghetti and meatball chart.
Boy.
Yeah.
I love the analogy. Way cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the benefits of the challenge to me were that it did add some new profiles within 7 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to add new data and biography information for some profiles. They may have found one new ancestor. I'm still checking it. And I learned a lot more about working in WikiTree. And consequently, that's, all of it has value. 2,400 profiles were added, or 1,300 were added. And so it was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to the reveal for obvious reasons.
It's very cool. The reveal will I mean, to have 35 people looking at your part of the tree, it's pretty amazing.
But the problem is, of course, that there's only 38 million profiles in WikiTree. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Billions of people that could be. Yeah. So it's a challenge to grow it, and it's actually a fun thing to do. And the more WikiTreeers who get proficient at using WikiTree, the more will be added by challenges like this. There's other challenges, and Hillary, I'm sure, can tell us about them. So, thank you. Sorry to take so long.
No, that is just fascinating. And this is the advantage of crowdsourcing.
Yep.
And having the expertise from other people where they got the picture and you got the family Bible, or they know from a letter that they inherited, or research that they did at a different archive than you've ever been to. Because we can't know everything about an ancestor. We don't know all the possible places where a footprint of their life, of the times of their lives, has been left. So it's way cool. Frank, a panelist, is saying WikiTree is a huge cousin bait. Ellen, you're going to get one of those amazing charts. They didn't have that kind of chart when I did it, but I'll bet you if I go there now, I could see it. Let's see. And our Gwen is saying she's going to tune in on Friday. And that you two are cousins on the Gates side of the family from the colonial era of the United States, of the pre-United States. Okay.
Cool.
And so they do. WikiTree has a YouTube channel, Marcia, and that's where they host the wrap-ups and everything. So maybe Hillary can go look for that. I don't know. Thank you. Okay, Randy, I will send you to the wings and Hillary as well. And let's pull Ursula up on the stage. And we're going to share her screen. And in the meantime, Hillary will give us that link, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. All kinds of comments. Let's see who's here today before we go forward with your segment. We've got Joy from Sacramento. Yes, and and a big shout out to Ellen for being over on the YouTube side. She's the co-host on the YouTube side. Ursula will join and help you there shortly. Hi, Valerie from Minnesota. Smoke from the British Columbia fires. You know, Mr. Myrt and I were noticing, we've had this aurora borealis that has come way down into Utah and down into Florida and Virginia. But the last 2 days, it's been very misty. And Mr. Myrt said, is there a fire, up in BC? Didn't know there was one, but now we understand why we didn't see much of it because of that. Thank you. Okay. All right. Hi, Flo. Linda is here. And another Linda is here. And Randy, of course, is here. He's from Chula Vista. Hillary, our gal in Wales. Monta is here. Littleton, Colorado. Miriam, so good to see you today. I'm doing the one-to-one thing, aren't I? Well, I don't think you had one-to-one in Utah, or I mean in Germany, Ursula, but it was a kid's show, and she had a mirror that where they took the glass out and you could see her face through it, and she used to say, I see Mary and I see Bob. It was a television show just to help kids feel connected. Yeah. Frank is from Potsdam, also over in Germany. Let's see if there's anybody else saying where they're from. Betty Lou is here. Hi, John from Cincy. Oh, Shaker Heights, excuse me. I know where it is, next to Cleveland. We have people in Cincy, so we know. Betty Lou again. I think we're catching up with everybody. I will not, as a matter of course, spotlight individual company names if they're watching, because that's free advertising. And I spotlight the work of my panelists. I'm very happy when people do join us, but that's my policy. Somebody has given me a challenge over that. Okay, so let us talk, Ursula. And we need to have I'm hearing some kind of sound going on in the background.
Yeah, there's a plane over my house.
Okay.
I live close to the military base. That's why.
Okay. All right.
I can't make them stop.
Well, I hear you. You got to have it. So let me give you a minute for it. Okay, we don't hear it anymore. Or it's fainting away slightly.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about a research journal. This is essential, and there's reasons why we should keep it.
Exactly. So the question, should I keep a research journal, can only be answered with a yes. You should. And there are many, many reasons and advantages. The first advantage is that it simply helps you keep track of all your findings. So you have something written down and you have it in the computer. So what you have, you can always look at afterwards or go through it. So yeah, so that you simply have the information, everything you found.
Or that you didn't find.
or you didn't find exactly. And it's also the place where all your sources are, because we all know you need proof. For everything you do, you want to have proof, or if you can't prove it, you need to put that down as well. So you put down all the sources you searched. Either you find something or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, so so even what I said is that you also have to put down what you searched, and it's not dependent on if you found something or not, because even not finding something is a piece of information.
Absolutely. I have looked at the same book 3 times till I figured out this point that I needed to keep a research log. I looked at the same book, done the same thing, looked at the same microfilm, wasted time.
Yeah, and it's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And you can spend that time with searching something else. So
Mm-hmm.
what's also good is that you can gather information for positive or negative evidence for reports, because we all know that there are missing records. For example, the famous the courthouse burnt down, and of course we in Germany have an enormous number of loss from the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
So you simply do need positive or negative evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so also, it's great if you want to share information with others. So that means that you either want to share it with a cousin you found, or with your family, or you want to share it with somebody else you don't know, or you want to hire a professional researcher. And for that, of course, you need to pass on information. And there's nothing worse than just saying, find that person. And then the researcher will always say, yeah, but do you have proof, or what is it based on? And then it's much easier if you really have a journal where you can say, these are all the sources I've searched in the US, in Germany, and that these are my findings. Because if you just say, yeah, I'm looking for that person, I've searched everywhere, you might, the researcher, of course, first thing says, yeah, but where? And there's a great chance that the researcher searches sources that you already have searched, and it's a waste of money.
Total waste of money. Yep.
Yeah. So or also when you don't cite your sources, and you also say, I'm very sure that this is the way it is, and look, it's in my tree. But if the researcher doesn't have proof for it, it's really hard just to send a proposal. If the proposal should be, I want to clean up your tree first, or I want to write a journal for you first, and then I can start my proposal.
I actually had a neighbor that needed help with a professional. And I said, bring everything you've got. This is when I lived in Salt Lake. And you can imagine my kitchen table there, because you've been there, her house guest. And I said, bring everything you've got. And it was a mishmash of like a torn piece of paper from the back of an envelope and this and that and everything else. And I said, you need to put these in chronological order by family, because you've got two questions you want solved, and not like this. It needs to be summarized. And I taught her how to do a citation, because you can't just take this 2 feet worth of stuff and original photos and documents and give it to the researcher at the family history library.
Yeah, exactly. And you do want to have a goal to make your goal as precise as possible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Find anything on that name is not as good as, I have the following information and it's based on the following record,
Mm-hmm.
or the following records even.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can search very differently from than if you just know, I think maybe.
Well, and you're absolutely right. If you're doing this to keep track of your research so you don't duplicate efforts, and you're not paying that researcher to do something that you've already done, and it's just an easy thing to send them a copy of your journal.
Yeah, and maybe the researcher will even not be willing to work with you at that stage, and just sends you back and say, please come back, because I can't work that way. I need to have concise information.
Yeah, you can't just say census records tell me. You need to have which census record, the location, the date, what exactly it said.
Or I found it on Ancestry.
Oh,
that's not a source.
Yeah.
And that's really hard. So it can be anything. So that's why you want to keep a record, research journal, and also because then you know exactly what you want. Because you know exactly this is the record I need.
Yep, I hear you.
Yes. So also, it's great that if you want to add everything onto your tree, then you have all the information in one place, and it's much faster. And you can also add the sources to the tree. For example, the Ancestry tree or many online trees give you the opportunity to add the sources as well. So you have everything there, and yeah, makes it lots easier. And also, it's a possibility that it doesn't only document your search, it also gives you the opportunity to include your thoughts and your conclusions and maybe even to-do lists. So that's really important. For example, if you always grew up, the family Bible said this and that, this is where the family is from, and you search and search, and they're not from that place, and then your conclusion is this source, the family Bible, doesn't say as it is.
So there's a problem here. There's an anomaly that has to be resolved.
Exactly. Or the questions you have that appear, that when you don't find it, and you know what's the next step. So you add the next step, which would be that maybe they lived in town nearby. So what is the town nearby?
And not that you are ready to do that yet, but it's you're thinking about, gee, based on this and the conundrum I've encountered, maybe I could do these things. And if you don't do that right then, life intervenes and you have to wallpaper the bathroom or whatever it is. And when you come back to it, you're going to forget what your thinking was if you hadn't, put it down in your journal.
Exactly. So you can already define the next step, and then you can take a break and do the bathroom wallpaper.
Yes, exactly. I do want to mention that Jill says at the upcoming National Genealogical Society conference, she's speaking on research planning, which is what you're working into with the research log and the thoughts and conclusions and to-do lists. So thank you, Jill, for that. If you can find the link to NGS and share it, I will be very happy to share it. Okay, back to you, Ursula. I love this conversation format. It's a little disruptive to the presenter, but it's real-time interaction and it's so dynamic. Back to you, Ursula.
Okay, so let's think about how to do this.
Yes.
Now, I know that there are many people out there who have clear definitions of how you do a research journal. And of course, I, as a professional genealogist, also have a standardized research journal. But when I do my own research, I do it differently, mainly because I do research differently, because I'm always working with non-Germans. So I have to explain much more. I have to add a lot of information that I would not tell myself. Also, naturally, for clients, I need to tell them where their money is and every step, and guide them through. So it's a different expectation by the client. But for me, I do it differently. And I also think that often we have this standardized way of doing things that doesn't always meet the people's needs, or I mean, we're all different, and all of us have different ways of working. And like, I'm a very visual person. I need to have maps, and I need to have a family tree, and I need to have it should be built in a very visual way. So I work with colors, and I think that there are people who get crazy when you start working with colors. And then we have these people who love spreadsheets and Excel and do everything on Excel. And then we have the people who say, oh, no, I don't want to do that. And I'd rather do Word, a table in Word or so. So I think we need to find the format that fits us best and that fits the research best that we are doing, the goal. So we need to sit down and say, what goal do I have? Am I just collecting whatever I have? Or am I really into it? Do I have one line, say I'm looking for one person? And then the research, the form might be very different from that. So that's something that we should be open for all different kinds of ways to do it. It should always have like a title or a goal, where I really start with defining what is it I am searching. That makes it not easier. I personally search for different persons or just one line, one generation. So I just put that in. And then it's easier to find. I mean, ending up with a research journal of 200 pages, you can't find anything. So that's, it's not really good. So I think it's better working with smaller ones, and then a title and a goal is important.
And isn't that a 200-page research log is likely answering more than one question? And when I hire you as a professional researcher, because you're the boots on the ground in Germany for me, I want an answer to a specific research goal. So I'm going to just send you that part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then it's always good to have a short introduction where you list all the facts that you already have. Like currently I'm looking for my 5th great-grandfather, and I've done research on my 4th great-grandfather, and I have a lot of information that is important for searching his father. So I add that, because then I don't have to get back and search all the time. And it's just, I sit down once, and then I have all the facts. And all the facts meaning everything that I have proof of.
Well, and this has nothing to do per se with our genealogy program, because that might be where we put our conclusions. But while we're doing the actual research and ferreting out this Tom Jones from that Tom Jones, by explaining what you know and then what question you have, it's there in black and white, whether it's digital or whatever, handwritten.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's simply nicer to work with it. Because you don't constantly have to go back and then look at this record or look at that record. So everything is there on page 1. And you can when you have a question, say, oh, wasn't he a godfather of someone somewhere? Who was that? And where was that? And you just go page 1, and bam, there you have it.
Okay.
So that's why. If you add the source, you should also add the file name or the file number to it, so that you know exactly if you need to look at the record one more time, so you can find it. Then you should also have a column for your findings or for the content. That can be the translation, for example, or transcription, and also for remarks. And remarks can be many different things. For example, when you're doing German research and the area is now not in Germany anymore, but in Poland, for example, And that would be something you want to add there. What's the name today? Or was there a loss of files, and which files survived? Or where do I find the files? Everything that has to do with your findings that is somewhat connected.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's also something that you look up and you tend to forget if you don't put it down. And it's also wise to put a date there, because more and more records are getting online. So you can also check what's the date, and maybe they come in later, and then you know that you can change that, or then do online. The research question that I always use, which I love working with, and that's always the question when I have a finding or not finding anything, what's the question I have? So, was he born in a nearby town? Okay, now I need to go and look what is the nearby town. And then that automatically explains the next step, and it gives it a flow.
Mm-hmm.
So every finding, there's a question that follows. And I always say that genealogy is not about answers, it's about asking the questions. And that's, I think that's the fun part, actually, asking the questions.
Mm-hmm.
You also want to add your conclusions you have. We talked about that already. Is that you really want to put that down. What have you learned there? What have you found there? And what's the next step?
And
you can also add maps, for example, an historical map, which can be very important if you have migration patterns, that you can see how far did the family usually move the area, and how far is the next parish, or how far is the next little town, and these things. And also one question is, in what order do you want to put it? And usually you put it in the chronicle order, means the way you research. So every time, and then the next, and it just goes down. But sometimes it might be better to organize it in a different way. For example, for individuals, or you're just searching for a family. And if the family moves a lot, you get dizzy. If you put it in the chronicle order, then sometimes it's better to put like the death record of a child next to the birth record, even though it might have taken place 10 years afterwards, and there were 3 children born.
But you would see a different location.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you could actually figure out a migration pattern. Yes.
Yeah. And my family, who is constantly moving, it's much better to do it time-wise. So I have phases, and then I say, okay, this happened in this town. And sometimes they came back there as well. So this is just something, and it kind of develops. Mm-hmm. So again, here I would say that it must meet your needs, and that's important. Not to do the standardized version if it doesn't make sense that way.
We need to bring in some comments and questions from the audience. I'm not sure how many screens you have.
No, that's I'm done.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect. Okay. So Hillary said something here that she can have research notes in her genealogy program. If she wants, they can be linked to an individual or a family. And I remember, Hillary, that Cousin Russ showed us that he could keep his research log in Family Tree Maker. What is the program you're using, Hillary? I think it's Family Historian. Is that Family Historian?
Yes, it is. Yeah. I've got the newest version. It's got research, a bit more research notes capability than the previous version.
Okay.
Had. So you can actually do a bit more.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So thank you for that. So I think Frank has a universal question here. How do you determine that you're finished with a research question where you cannot find a sufficient answer? That's the whole point of research, isn't it? This is as far as we got and we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I think it depends. Speaking as a lawyer, it depends. I think first of all, you simply know if you're experienced in a certain area that you already know what records there are, and the occupation of the family and such. So you always have that in the back of your head.
Yeah.
What is there and what isn't there. And I mean, you usually start with church records or with civil records. And then if you don't find anything there, or you have looked at everything already, and then you can go to the state archive, for example, and see, are there estate records or land records or so. Or you can go to local archives, or look at newspapers or directories, and you simply know after some time.
A record source.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean,
alternate record sources.
I sometimes have the craziest finds in sources that are digitized, where I would never think of. And I can tell you about one example is that I found my great grandparents lived in Cologne. They were not from Cologne, and my great grandmother was from Switzerland, and they digitized the records of Cologne. And I thought, hey, cool, and they're indexed. So I searched for the name, and I found an entry, and it was that she donated money for I believe it must have been the German War in 1864, or 66. So she donated money, and I always thought, like, why does she donate money? She's from Switzerland, and then all of a sudden I realized that her husband was a soldier. He was in the military at that time. Which I was, because all the military records have been destroyed.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, that's a source you wouldn't have thought about. That's nothing you search. I mean, you search the papers, but
you never know
to find something like that. So,
yeah, and Cologne is the cathedral in Cologne is such a massive cathedral. That sounds like a central place where somebody, but again, like you say, you'd never guess that she would have donated money there. I actually
really, it took me about a year to realize that.
Yeah, and you live there.
Yeah.
I about fell over just looking, like I was about in that courtyard before you go, patio area, I don't know what you'd call it. Looking up to the spires in Cologne, I about fell over backwards. It's so huge. It's so massive and beautiful. Randy had a good point about Cousin Russ always called the term current thinking for our hypothesis or suggestions or that conclusion where we are. Frank, did that answer your question enough?
Yes.
How do we know? Sure. Okay, that was a good point to bring up. Betty Lou has a question for you. How do you set up a research plan for an area? For instance, she's going to get a chance to go to Italy, and she wants to glean the records for all the families in that town. So,
well, what I would do is I would prepare a research plan, so to say. So, if I understand this correctly, she doesn't have the information yet?
I don't think she has the information yet.
Yeah, but
she's a very active researcher, though.
Yeah. So Betty Lou, if you already have the information, like the family members you are searching for, I would just prepare something where you already put the name into it and the date of birth or baptism and all the information for each family member you want. And then sort it after family lines, direct lines, like start with your direct line and all the children, and then maybe go to aunts and uncles, or to the parents, siblings, and then just do like one block. And if you're working with a spreadsheet or a table, you can always move it. You know, you can just add one line to it. So that's going to be easy. So you're going to be sorting it from the very beginning and just adding, oh, this is a cousin. So you can just add a line and order the cousin so that you have it connected to the right parents.
Yeah.
But it will change. It's really important that you're well prepared. Because you're always so excited if you go to the parish and it's new and they don't have so much time. And
Randy says, and let's bring you up, Randy. Talk about this, the research wiki at Family Search. I think you might have muted yourself.
Sorry. For any location now, Family Search Research Wiki is so mature that they have a pretty good handle on how to start. You know, what records are available, how do you get to them, who can you write to, things like that. So it's an excellent place to start.
Great. Okay. I have a suggestion. My girlfriend and I went to Germany in 1995, and we took a map and we put a green dot everywhere our ancestors were, where we wanted to go to the local church in that tiny little village, etc. And we put a red dot instead of a green one where an ancestor was, where we knew we absolutely had to try to do research because they were said to have been from that area, but the records weren't on film or they weren't online yet. And then all we did in planning our trip was connect the dots and figure out, then that we had to start down in Bayern. When we knew that a lot of things were out in the Württemberg area. So, but in order to not double back, we needed to start down in Bayern. But let's see. And we also coordinated that with the Rick Steves book about traveling Europe, because if I'm going to be in this tiny town and the next town has a Remmenschneider carved altarpiece that I don't want to miss, I can go to see it. I wouldn't want to, there's a combination of things. Okay. Let's see.
Things are much easier meanwhile because so much is online. So planning, the difficulty with planning today is that there are so few parishes left that we have on the countryside. There are like 10 parishes made to one. And it's really
they've
hard
solidified or consolidated.
Exactly. So it's really hard to find the person who has the key to the church and all these things. So it's not the research anymore.
Yeah. And Betty Lou's giving you some feedback, and I know that Italy research has been difficult for a lot of people, not just you, Betty Lou, because I always remember you and your Italian ancestry peripherally. And the WikiTree doesn't get you down to the nitty gritty. Like it didn't get me down to the nitty gritty. Well, in 1995, I'm not sure we even had the research wiki then. I think they were still, oh, there go the planes again. I can hear them in the distance. Anyway, yeah. All you can do is look. But I do like the map idea, and I do like the idea, as Ursula is saying. Our genealogy software can print. Somebody said something about, this is, well, Gwen, you really should be a panelist. You're helping us a lot, plus causing me problems and making me do upcoming presentations. Roots Magic is a who was there report, and you can input the location and it sorts it for you. And another way to do that I also use Roots Magic, as does Randy. When I know I'm going to a certain place, I will look at and not print a locality sorted list to see where a birth, a marriage, or a death occurred for that locality. But you can also notice who the names are. Pull those out, and then look for all the people associated with that person that might be in that area. Because I always hit the libraries, local genealogy or history, reading room, whatever it is, even if it's 5 books. I have gone there to a little tiny place in Iowa, and what they had in their collection were family search microfilms that I could have looked at in Salt Lake where I lived. But I didn't know I needed it till I got to that village. And because I didn't have a laptop in those days, and I didn't have anything other than my initial printout of who I knew to be there. And then I'm noticing in the cemetery these other names. And I'm thinking, no, it's not a daughter. It might be like a brother that I don't know about. Then I want to do research there on that. But I don't have everything. You can't bring your office with you. It's a challenge. But anyway, I like that concept. Yeah. Anything else before we switch topics? I think we're doing well. Ursula, thank you so much for getting us off on the right foot and talking to us about research logs and putting our current thinking into it. Isn't that how it goes with our own research, that we think we're working on this line, and we've got it all written in. If we don't have it all written in our research log, when we're suddenly, like, I have a cousin coming on Wednesday, and so now I have to worry about my Weiser family line because I've got to pull out the old family Bible and stuff, and I'm going to be there thinking about that side. When I come back to the Goring side, luckily our people came by 1848.
That was my thought.
Yeah, right, exactly. I have an ex-husband who said, "No wonder you have a temper." I don't know.
But they're
No,
not all related. There are many
it's like
very nice and pleasant Görings.
Yes, I hear you. Okay. Jill has a good question for you about being finished. Jill, you don't need to mute yourself when I take you to the backstage, it automatically mutes you. Yeah.
I learned something new. Great.
And when I bring you up, then you're automatically ready to go. Talk to me.
Thank you. Well, Ursula, you made some, there was a question from Frank, I think it was, about when you're finished, how do you complete it? And my, what I've discovered with my problems that I have is that I'm never really finished. I might write them up. I might have a research plan. I might have the research log all written up within one report, which is how I like to do it. And I find myself setting it aside because in 5 years, there's going to be 25 more record sets available that I didn't even know were there. And so, like you discovered donation in Cologne Cathedral, sometimes serendipity happens. And to me, I have to be open to that. And I stay open to that by never saying I'm finished. And even if I hit a brick wall, I usually assume that it's a brick wall I've manufactured, not something that somebody else is giving me because I've run out of records, because I keep finding more and more and more. So I just thought I'd make that comment about how I'm never finished, actually, and I just set it aside to gestate a little longer.
That's what I also say to many clients where I just can't find the person they're looking for. And I say, look, with artificial intelligence coming and many more records being online daily, You never know.
Right.
It's not hopeless. Just keep your eyes open and try every once in a while. I've made the most amazing finds where I also thought that I'd never find them. So it's, and I mean, that's the fun part of genealogy, isn't it? It's this constant things popping up.
Well, it's the fun and the frustrating part. I have an individual who was quite a notorious character, and it took me over 3 years to get past the point of where I had his feet nailed to the ground on one day in one location, and that's all I could find on him. So it took a long time to get the rest of him built out, but it took me 3 years to do that.
Let me pull Hillary up on the panel because she has something to say too about research you found in the past and now.
Yeah, I found, when I first started researching, I started looking at all the people with my maiden name in the city because there wasn't that many. So I'd looked at them, all the marriages, just in case there were people that were relatives. Now, there were two families, and I thought I was only related to one family. But since I've done further research, I found that the other side of, there's a very high chance that I'm related to the other family that was in the city as well. Because it looks like the other side of the, not my maiden name, but the actual wife was actually definitely a relative of mine, and it's possible that the husband as well was a relative. DNA testing and things has proven that the marriage that I thought was one of my ancestor, who hadn't married when she had my direct ancestor, she then married and had a lot more children, and it turns out I'm probably related.
Probably related. Yeah, this as we study more, we learn more. So that again, there's Cousin Russ's current thinking, and it gives you. I like the comment that you made somewhere in the chat, Jill, where you said it gives you time to kind of muse or think about what it is you've been doing. Sometimes when we step away from our research, I was talking to my daughter about working in the garden makes me do a better job at writing whatever it is I need to write because I'm not thinking about the problem, but the other part of my brain is still working on the problem. So the subconscious is very, very powerful way to analyze things.
And sometimes it simply takes time, and it takes something, another find that might not seem related, but it gives you an idea of how to interpret your find. So that's something. It's yeah. So you probably never stop, but still, it doesn't go. The part where you can plan, where you can go through that. I have 10 different sources and 3 different archives. That's over at a certain point. And then starts the waiting and the searching and just being open-minded for anything that might come your way.
Absolutely. I want to tell you something that I learned this week. Well, last week. It's the beginning of a new week, a new leaf, a new chapter. I'm taking an AI course from Dana Leeds. And I'm doing it because I have to figure out what is coming. In fact, my daughter who works for JetBlue says competency in AI is one of the new directives from management. She's in upper management, but not upper. And so we were comparing notes, and I gave her the example of what my father wrote, I think in high school, because his handwriting in this particular write-up was more like his high school writing than his later years as a physician and surgeon, where it was really messy. There's not enough AI to interpret that later in life handwriting. And I don't want to tell you this, but I got to tell you that in that write-up, and our assignment was to animate a photo of our ancestor and give it text to interpret the handwriting and to say it. My dad said that women should never be educated because then they would be beholden to their husbands and it would reduce the divorce rate and keep peace in the home. Now, when I ran across this after Dad passed away, and I thought I had seen everything he had, I about threw up and I wanted to tear it up right away. It was the most horrible thing. And I'm like, this isn't how Dad treated us. When my sister was newly married and her husband was going through medical school internship and residency, which is a number of years, she worked for a brokerage firm. And my dad praised her, and we had long conversations, all of us, about the work she did at the brokerage firm, and what she learned about all kinds of stocks and bonds, and I can't even remember all the things, but he applauded my efforts at continuing education, etc. He sent me to special seminars on real estate and investments and things that were not cheap. That were $400 or $500 back in the early 80s. That wasn't cheap. And so I didn't want to create an AI feature, an animated picture of my dad saying this horrible stuff from what I construed to be high school writing. He was on the debate team. And the more I thought about it, that's Jill's thinking, more time you get to think about it. In debate, sometimes you have to give the opposing point of view, whether you believe it personally or not.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, that's okay. Yeah, then that must be what it is. And then I thought too about, after a couple of days when I've really been working in my Japanese garden, Jill, I wish you'd come up all the way and spent the night up here when you came up to see the Aurora Borealis, because then you could see what I'm doing in my little Japanese garden. It dawned on me that my father was born in 1918. And when he was in high school, it was another 40 years before women could have a bank account without their husband co-signing. They couldn't have a credit card for a couple more years after that. And that there was a great change in the law and in the culture, and a big progression in women's history, in the history of women's rights during my dad's lifetime. So maybe he did believe that in his younger years. Maybe this, because the write-up wasn't dated. I'm only assuming because of handwriting, the time period of it. But he didn't say for debate 101 or whatever it was in high school. Maybe he did think that, but maybe he is part of that generation where they had to now encompass more women's rights. I mean, there was no Gloria Steinem when my dad, well, she was, but she wasn't who she is when my dad was in high school. And we all theoretically and hopefully progress and become more inclusive in our thinking over time. I don't know, but if I didn't include that historical context, which we always talk about the importance of, that it would not have been a good assignment. Believe me, I struggled last week in my AI class because of that. And Gwen, our de facto YouTube side panelist, says, Myrt, you're not alone. I discovered that my mom's favorite ancestor in Pennsylvania was in KKK, the Ku Klux Klan records, and wanted to tear it up and throw it away. I get it. Yeah.
I mean, we have the same problem in Germany. That's the first thing that we talk about. Our grandparents. What did they do during the Third Reich? That's
yeah.
the number one
Yep.
question.
Yep. Randy, I brought you up on the screen, dear. And being the wise gentleman that you are, you can say, you type this in, but give me your point of view on our youthful thoughts of life.
We're all the victim of our upbringing, you know.
Mhm.
And if our parents are racist or wrong about things, we have to resolve that. And you don't do it by banning things and by cutting people off. You do it by educating them.
Good point. Thank you. Well, and isn't it our charge as family historians to look at our ancestors without judgment? There's a point to that phrase, just the facts, ma'am, and the storyline behind it, I guess. I need to now present this and can present this story. I'm not going to give my kids and grandkids the AI reading that, but I do need. I'm glad that I didn't throw it away, and I'm glad that I thought this through. But at the time that I was grieving his death, and it was only 9 months, almost to the day of the passing of our beloved stepmother, and I was the caregiver for both of them with a lot of help from my siblings, I was not capable of doing all this thinking then. Yeah. All right. Well, let us have everyone go off stage. If you could do that for me, Hillary. And we are going to switch gears and we are going to play a little game called Who's in My Line? And excusez-moi, I need a sip of water or something. And in order to do this, I'll actually need to pull everybody back up on the screen because all of you panelists and the audience need to play along. And the person that we're going to be dealing with first is my ancestor. We're going to have just enough time to play one version of this game. And it happens that his picture is the gentleman on the right side of this screen. There's the tombstone on the far right, and then there's my ancestor. So that tells you it's a guy, and it tells you about something about his age if you look at that photo. Now, while you're all panelists, and let's see if you're all there. Ellen, let's see if it works to get you up on stage. By the way, Maria has been my timer today. And so thank you for being my co-host for timing. And Ellen, has it worked for you to be over on the YouTube side a little? She's locking up. All right. Here's what you need to figure out.
It's working so far so good.
Oh, so far so good. Good. All right. All right. I'm going to give you 20 possible questions to ask me to find out something about my male ancestor. And we'll go to Hillary first and think of a question, and I'll try to keep track of if we're up to 20. Maybe Maria, you can help me count the number of questions. Thank you. Everybody's chipped in. So Hillary, what do you think?
Was he born in the, let's see, 19th century?
No. So it goes on to Frank.
The 18th.
Say again?
The 18th century.
No. Jill, think of the photo. That was a photo. Jill?
I've never played this game before, so
It's
I'm
okay,
not
just
really sure.
Ask any question.
So, was he born in the United States?
Yes. So you get another question.
Oh.
What you're trying to do is figure out something about him that I've discovered.
Okay. Okay.
And it could
was
be
he born on the east of the Mississippi.
I have to think of the map. Yes, but it's not germane to the conversation. I mean, no, but it's not germane to the conversation.
No. Okay.
Because it's a no, we'll go to Randy.
Is he one of your ancestors within 3 degrees?
Yes. So ask me the next question.
Mm-hmm. Is he a grandfather?
Yes, he's my grandfather.
Is he your mother's father?
Yes. So I think we're up to 9 or 10 questions, aren't we, Maria?
7.
Oh, you're at 7.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a yes or no, it's still a question they asked. Yeah. Okay, so you're going to have to try to figure out, is this an occupation? Is this a avocation, a hobby? Is this military? Those are the kind of questions you probably want to ask.
Was he in the military?
No. Sorry. I was trying to be generic.
I know.
Okay, so we go to Ellen. You have a question for me?
Was he in agriculture?
No. That's a good question, too. Okay, Maria.
Was he in agriculture?
Yeah, no, he was not in agriculture. Maria?
What was his occupation?
Okay, I can only say yes or no.
Okay. Was he a photographer?
No. So back to Hillary. I better get my things ready for the reveal.
Was his occupation related to his religion?
No. So it goes to Frank.
Was he a merchant?
No, he was not a merchant. Doesn't have to be his occupation. It could be a hobby. It could be anything. Jill.
Did he live in a town smaller than 5,000 people?
It's probably, they probably had more than 5,000 people when he lived there. Okay. So the answer is no.
No.
So we go to Randy.
Is it Mr. Fruman? Your
Oh, you looked on my tree. That's who it is. Yes.
I couldn't remember all the names. You know?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Okay,
the hard part is coming up with a name because you know it intimately and none of us.
Yeah. But it's not his name that we're looking for. It's an attribute. It's
Oh.
a hobby or a job or let's see what the audience is asking. Was he a craftsman? That's from our gal, Ursula. No, craftsmen make things, but anyway. And Valerie says, a great way to honor our beloved Russ, playing the game Who's in My Line? Yeah. And yeah, you can look me up on WikiTree, that's for sure. Okay. Now you got a yes, whoever the last person was, the Froman. So Randy, wait a minute. We got some help from a phone a friend. Betty Lou said, did he work in a garage? No, he did not work in a garage. The audience really needs to help narrow it down because we're getting up to the 20 questions. And the audience questions don't count. They're helping. Okay. So I'm giving it to you, Randy, because you were the last yes. You get another question and it doesn't count against our 20. It's really 20 no's.
Was he a musician?
Yes. And I think somebody else wanted to know that. Yes, he was a musician. But that's not what I'm going to show you. He did play the clarinet. I have the clarinet, although I gave it to my grandson that's very musical. This is what I want to share with y'all, an unusual resource, something that has survived, a fishing license. When he lived up near Spokane, you'd easily go over into Idaho to go fishing. There's a big lake there. In fact, my step uncle had a boat in Idaho, but he lived in Spokane. That's how big some of the lakes are over there. It was a big yacht. Anyway, I learned a lot about my grandfather from this fishing license that was among the things in my grandmother Frances's trunk. Now they divorced. My mother was their only child. Male 26, 6 feet, 1.5 inches, 170 pounds. Considered to have dark complexion, dark hair, gray eyes. And he lived at the time in Kansas City, Kansas, county of Jackson in Missouri. And part of the time he lived in the other part of Kansas City. And another time I'll stump you about that. And it was in 1926. Let me go to the next photo. When he was on this fishing trip, there was a mama bear and some cubs that were attracted to the fish that he and his mates were. Let me get to the next slide. Come on, go next.
You're not sharing, Pat.
You're not
Oh, I'm
sharing.
not? Oh,
No.
darn. Oh, darn. Let me go share. Ah. Yep, that was one of the things that here we go. Let me start again. One of the things that Cousin Russ always had to tell me, you're not screen sharing, Myrt. Let me pull this up. Okay. Okay, here we are. There's the fishing license.
You're
No.
not sharing, and you have the wrong layout.
There we go.
There we go. Okay.
And
You're good.
all right. Dang. What would I do without you guys to help me out here? Okay, so there's his fishing license. And this is his handwriting. That's his signature, and the rest of it, I guess he filled out the form. And then they stamped it and as he paid for it. So we know he's in Idaho, and at least in June 26, 1926. And but that he actually was a resident in Kansas City. Okay, then here's the little bear picture. This was with his fishing license. I don't know if that's. I guess that's just a rope. I don't know. Here's the picture, and I don't know if I can zoom in anymore. Let's see. These are guys from the all right, I'll tell you the story. Yes, it was Coeur d'Alene, Lake Coeur d'Alene, Miriam, where my uncle's boat was, but I don't know which of the lakes, of those 3 lakes that you have listed, where he was actually fishing. Thank you. I think that this is my grandfather here. But it could be this guy. They didn't label who was in it. But these are his buddies from the boys' home in Kansas City, Kansas. He was the oldest, and we're really glad he's the oldest. Here's the fishing place with a kind of, looks like more of a floating dock, because I don't see pilings underneath, but I don't know. And that's what I have to share, that he did enjoy fishing. And so so Lowell Simpson Froman is who's in my line. And that's how you play the game. it can get really challenging. Here's some of the things that people asked. So Gwen said, did he work in delivering goods? Was he in the military? Was he a barber? No, he actually played the clarinet. He was trained as a draftsman. And that photo of him in the branding graphic, let me pull that up again, is actually my grandpa sitting on his draftsman table. He didn't like that. And he did play for the Kansas City Orchestra. I have a newspaper to that effect. One
We're
of the
at 1:30, just so you know.
Okay, so that's perfect timing. I'm never that close. It's all good. It's all good. All right. Well, folks, we've had a fun time today, and we are again meeting next Monday. Thank everyone for coming today. I don't know if my brother David got to listen. I hope he did. He's in Salt Lake right now, and I'm not. But hopefully he'll get to visit over the next 4 days with two of my households of grandchildren there. Thank you, panelists. We learned so much from Randy and about his WikiTree experience, and from Hillary,
Yep.
giving us, she's our resident WikiTree expert, our gal in Wales. Jill, thanks for your input. And Frank and Ellen, thanks for being on the YouTube side and here. And let's see, who didn't I thank? Ursula for the research log discussions, for our research report to ourselves, where we are the client. We are our own client. Why wait to do a research report or a research log until we're a professional working for someone else? We are professionals working on our own family tree, and that is it, and it is imperative that we do exemplary work. We want to be climbing the right family tree. Nothing left to say, but I'm Dear Myrtle, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.